Is your business pootling along instead of firing on all cylinders? Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and frustrated? Do your dreams of financial freedom feel a long way off? Then this is the podcast for you. Little Voice, Big Business, with your host, Nadia Finer.
Hello and welcome to Little Voice, Big Business with me, Nadia Finer. I'm here to help you grow your business, and I'm really excited about today's episode. We've got a great question from Nadine, who needs a hand with her business, and so we're going to head over to Nadine and find out what's going on.
Hi Nadia, this is Nadine calling, and I have a question for you. I was wondering if you have a formula that you follow to maximize your productivity without pushing too hard or burning out or getting into overwhelm. So anything you could share about productivity would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Hey Nadine, so thanks very much for your question. I totally get where you're coming from. The words you've used in your question, pushing too hard and overwhelm, I feel like it's a really common feeling that a lot of us have. We get ourselves into a situation where we feel a bit like a deer in the headlights. There's so much to do in order to grow our business, and we're not really sure what to do first. I don't have a specific formula, although maybe I will craft one and trademark it at some point. But I do have a number of tips that are going to help you. The reason I can help with this, many of the entrepreneurs who join my Actionista Academy come to me in a similar situation. They're feeling overwhelmed, like they're not getting enough done. And they're starting to panic slightly because their business isn't maybe growing in the way that they would like. So the way we work together, and I'll run through some of the things that we discuss because I think it will help you, is that first of all we make a plan. I know that it sounds rather boring, but having a plan on how you're going to grow your business, maybe a 90-day plan, is a really simple, and it can be a fun way to start thinking about where you want to take your business and how you're actually going to get there. Obviously, like everything I do, I like to make it look nice, so I do think it may sound superficial because it is, but it does make the planning process more enjoyable. And on a serious note though, I think that without having a plan, a strategic plan for our business, we just make endless to-do lists. I know I've fallen foul of this before where you have, a to-do list, you never reach the bottom because you're always adding to it. And you just feel like you're never going to get where you want to go, but you haven't even set yourself a goal, so you don't really maybe know where that is at all. Anyway, we've got limited time available and there's so many things you could be doing, and we're bombarded by stuff from people, things to sign up for, listen to, things to watch, webinars, Periscope, you name it, and it's completely overwhelming. I just don't know how anybody is supposed to get any work done. And I remember I had a job once at the Body Shop in product development, which was actually a pretty cool job. And on my first day, I could not believe it. My diary was filled with these meetings I was supposed to have with different countries around the world to discuss their product needs. And there was no time left in the diary to actually do any work. And I remember at that point looking at this full diary and thinking, good God, this is not the way I want to work. I need to get on with my work. I'm here to develop products. So give me some time to actually do it, not filling every moment of the day with meetings. So that's a very corporate thing, but Now in the world of entrepreneurialism, it feels like there are so many other random things we could be doing instead of, like I said in episode 2, when Hilda was talking about having 15 hours a week available. Well, obviously you can't get everything done in that time. So I think having a plan is really important. So the way it works is we start off with your one big hairy goal. So for example, how much money do you want to bring in, or how much profit do you want to make? How many new clients do you want to reach? That kind of thing. It needs to be specific and big and audacious, nothing too boring. It's got to be exciting. And then you work out the key things that are going to get you to that point. So not a list of 100 things, just say 3 or 4 things that you need to do that will help you achieve that goal. So, for example, does that mean creating a new product, building a new website, growing your list to a certain number, having X number of potential leads, forming joint ventures, getting your products distributed, or even say a certain number of guest blogs, for example. So what big things do you need to do to achieve your goal? Think of it like a family tree. So at the top, the big goal, then the 3 things underneath. Now, underneath each of those 3 goals, you'll have a list. The tasks that you need to do to get to that point. And that is your to-do list. And essentially it means that everything on your to-do list is taking you towards your goal. It's not just a bunch of random stuff for you to tick off or for you to fill your days with, but it's got focus, and it's actually going to help you grow your business and achieve the things that are important to you. So now, once you've got this plan in place, the way you go about achieving it does not need to be as complicated as we are often led to believe. I think actually there's a conspiracy going on where people have forgotten that business doesn't need to be super technical or complex. It feels like we're told, you need to do things a certain way, and there's loads of complicated stuff that you need to do before you can make it work. And I know a lot of us will reach this kind of sense of overwhelm because we can't quite get things to work the way we want. So my pushback to you would be, do things need to be as complicated? For example, I was talking to one of my clients today who has had the idea of creating a course for her people. We've been talking about it for a while, but I know that the tech is holding her back. Now, this course could be delivered, arguably, in a series of emails. She could charge an introductory price just to get it off the ground and send a series of emails. Those emails don't even need to be automated. If she started on a particular day, she could run it for, say, 21 days. And even if she sent an email herself on a list every morning, that would be fine. I know there are platforms to run courses on, and I know there's all kinds of stuff we can do to make them, really whizzy and fancy. But I would much rather that you got something out there, a minimum viable product or a beta version, than did nothing at all. So if there's a way of simplifying things, then I would suggest getting started and doing things that way rather than feeling overwhelmed and unable to move things forward. Part of your plan could involve making a list of things that you can delegate to someone else. If you are terrible at anything technical, get someone to help you. I have skills in some areas and 0 skills in other areas. So that's where I really try and bring people in to help me rather than doing a really crappy job and spending 5 times as long. I bring people in to help me, and I suggest that you do the same, even if you will have to pay them. But there is no point in getting yourself into a hole and feeling unable to cope with, say, some tech or finance stuff or admin, if you can get someone who's an expert at that to do it. And yes, they might cost a few dollars an hour, but they will get it done a darn sight quicker than you will. And you need to think about the value that your time has, because if you're able to work on selling more product or getting new clients or serving your clients, that is going to be bringing in a lot more than you will be spending to get someone to help you. So I'd like also to mention the 80-20 rule, because I think this is really important. The theory says that only 20% of the work you do leads to 80% of the results. Let's just ponder on that for a moment. Oh my goodness, 20% of our work leads to 80% of the results. And I think we all know in our heart of hearts that this is true. There are things which we do which will work like a charm all the time, genius. And there are other things which we do all the time which don't really have too much impact, but which we maybe feel we need to be doing because people tell us we should be. So I think it's fair to say that successful people focus their time and efforts on the important stuff, the stuff which doesn't work or the stuff which is a distraction. I think it's fair to say that successful people focus their time and efforts on the important stuff, not the things that are a total distraction, like, for example, looking at kittens on Facebook, and not the things which maybe don't really have an impact on our business, even if we wish they did. So if Twitter is not working out for your business, but it takes up tons of time, don't do it. It's a waste of time, and focus on the stuff which actually brings results. I think there's a lot to be said for streamlining how you approach each day. So yeah, you've got your 90-day plan now. So you've got this list of things that are going to drive your business forward, but you're not going to attack all of them each day. So I use a method which is technically called Smart Stickies, which helps me focus. I take a post-it note or a small sticky note and I write down the 3 or 4 things I'm doing that day, no more. And I put them in my diary, and that is it. I told you it was highly technical, this one, but the idea is not to write in very small writing and try and fit 95 things on the note. Just keep it to the top 3 or 4. And you'll find that at the end of the day, you actually get those things done, rather than having this endless rolling list which you never complete and which is just a source of frustration. Another thing that I find really useful, but it may not work for everyone, particularly if you have sleep issues, I do a little review at night before I go to bed using my sticky note or a notebook, and I write down the priorities for the next day. It really helps me to focus and let it go before I go to sleep. However, some people might find this just makes them think about work all night, so you may want to give that a miss if sleeping is a thing for you. Another technique I use is called Eat the Frog. I think the name comes because people don't generally want to eat a frog because it would taste disgusting. So this is the thing that you tend to put off, and how if we constantly put something on our to-do list and then never do it because we don't want to, and then we put it on the next week's list and again and it never gets done, these are the things that come round and bite us in the butt later. The things like maybe going to the dentist, which we put off until our teeth go really pear-shaped. Don't do that. Or maybe doing our accounts. We don't want to do that either. So we go into denial and bury our head in the sand. And then eventually you find that you haven't done your accounts properly and you get a fine or you're late. So this method really encourages us to spend a few minutes each day doing that thing that you don't want to do, getting it done, and then you can move on and focus on the really important stuff. I also use something called the Pomodoro technique. I love this because it's got such a fancy name when essentially it's named after the kitchen timer that's shaped like a tomato. But really it cracks me up because you can just set a timer. So the idea is that you set a timer for say 20 minutes, and if you're replying to a difficult email or clearing your inbox, writing a blog post, for example, you just blitz it in that time and then you have a rest. So it really stops you from spending hours on one task and never really getting things finished. It's a great way to get things done and keeps you on your toes. And I like a deadline. It helps me to get on with it and stop fluffing around. Yeah, here we go. There's some more good stuff here. Right, I like to think about my time in terms of as if I'm an athlete. Like, imagine if I was Jessica Ennis-Hill and I was heading for my Olympics. How would I train? Well, I'd look at the way that I divide up my day and look at when I'm most productive. So I am a really good morning person. Not really early, because then I'm really not, but generally before lunch is my great, productive, creative time. So that would be the time when, I want to do writing or podcasts or creating new content because my brain is really up for the challenge. So if I was to try and do admin in that time, that would be wasting my creative brain space, I think. So I save the admin for the end of the day when I'm kind of winding down, or perhaps I'm, my brain's run out of fuel, so I don't need to think so hard about admin, so I put it at the end of the day. So it's definitely something to consider, the way your brain works and your sort of productivity peak times, like a finely tuned athlete. This one makes me laugh because you'll see in a minute. So the idea is talk to the hand. So, I'm sure many of us are people pleasers. I am as well. But I think my husband may not agree with that one. But that's by the by. So being a people pleaser means that you end up saying yes to things because you want to help people or you want them to like you. So when it comes to growing a business, this is not necessarily the best way to be. Our time is really valuable, so why on earth would you agree to waste it on things that you just don't need to be doing? I think if you're growing a business, you can't be everything to everyone. And it's not being mean or selfish, it's just prioritizing yourself and your business. I was talking about this in the Actionista Academy the other day, actually, because one of our members was really struggling to find time to get things done. And it turned out that she hadn't had the conversation with her family about prioritising her business. And they weren't even aware that she felt like this. And it wasn't until she actually told them that, I need a bit more time to work on my business. I just don't have time because I'm constantly running around after everybody else. And I think sometimes we need to have that discussion and tell people how we're feeling so that they can maybe make allowances or support us in our quest for entrepreneurial stardom. So it's not mean to say no to things or prioritise your business. Don't be a bitch about it, obviously, but, handled right, I think it's completely reasonable that you would put your business ahead of certain other things.
Talk to the hand.
The final thing that I'm going to suggest is really outsourcing. I know I talk about it all the time, and you probably think I sound like a broken record, but in order to run a business successfully, you're not going to be able to do it all yourself. It may be there are things that you can't do because you're just rubbish at them, like for me, accounting. but there are other things which would free up your time and enable you to run a much more effective business if you weren't doing them. So, if your time is worth $100 an hour, then it doesn't make sense for you to be doing, say, the cleaning or the ironing. Even at home, you could get someone in to come and help you with those things, freeing up your time to either spend doing the things you enjoy outside of work or growing your business. You don't have to employ people full time. You can bring in freelancers, you can outsource using agencies, and there are loads of places you can go to find help that does not cost the earth. And I think one of the reasons we feel overwhelmed is because we're trying to do everything ourselves and we're maybe being slightly control freakish about the whole thing. So I would definitely suggest bringing in some help to support you in your ambitions. You don't have to do everything for everyone. It's impossible. So really think back to the 80-20 rule and focus on the 20% of things that are going to help you to grow. So just to recap, we covered a bunch of things today, but essentially I want you to make a plan and focus on your big hairy goal and how you're going to get there. Use productivity techniques that will help you do more in less time. Get help, bring in someone or some people, a team of helpers that mean you can focus on what you're doing best. And also try and simplify things. If the tech, for example, is overwhelming, look at different ways of doing things that will allow you to move forward rather than sinking into quicksand. So I hope that's been helpful, and there's lots to think about there. Thank you so much for popping by and listening to Little Voice Big Business with me, Nadia Finer. Next episode, we're going to be talking about how to focus when you're multi-passionate. A really interesting topic and something which I know a lot of us can relate to. If you get a moment, I'd love it if you could head over to nadiafiner.com/podcast, where you can subscribe or leave your reviews. And also, if you've got the business blues and you'd like to ask me a question, you can leave me a message over there and I will get on the case and you will hopefully be featured in one of our forthcoming episodes. So thanks again for listening and I will speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Little Voice, Big Business.